Let's go Dolphins! Today I have information that could completely change the way you view this season. It's no exaggeration to say that the future of names like Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Phillips is being decided right now, and no one in the NFL is speaking as clearly about it as I'm going to do here. Do you want to know why Chris Grier might be about to make decisions that will leave some of the fans furious? Or why a nearly forgotten name could become the new pillar of Miami's defense? Then I'll tell you everything. But first, now that you've already opened the button, make sure you like a Dolphins fan who can't stand being fooled by empty promises and frustrating seasons. If you still believe this team can reach the Super Bowl, even if the path is getting increasingly difficult, comment below. Go Dolphins! We can reach the Super Bowl. Now that's for sure. Are you prepared for the real possibility of seeing Tyreek Hill traded before the end of the month? Because that's what we're talking about. Let's get straight into the fire. The Dolphins are entering a pivotal week, one that might define the course of the entire 2025 season. Sitting on the seesaw of the NFL, a win this week could keep Miami steady, but a loss? That puts us firmly in selling mode heading into the November 4th trade deadline. If the Dolphins fall to 0-2 with Buffalo looming next on Thursday Night Football, you're staring 0-3 in the face, with a realistic shot at being no better than 3-5 by the deadline. And at that point, it's time to start selling. Enter Tyreek Hill. Yeah, you heard me right. The cheetah himself is at the center of swirling trade rumors. According to Bleacher Report, he's sitting at the top of their trade candidate board. Why? Simple. The Dolphins are not going to keep him for the 2026 season. And if the team continues to struggle, the front office would be insane to let this opportunity pass. The financials alone are staggering. Tyreek has a monstrous $52.8 million cap hit next year. Miami could save $36 million by cutting him after the season. So, ask yourself this, why not trade him now and at least get something back? But don't expect a massive haul. Despite what some fans might think, you're not getting a first-round pick for a wide receiver who's 30+, carries off-field baggage, and has a massive cap number. Bleacher Report projects a conditional third-round pick as the realistic return, and that's probably generous. Remember what happened with Davante Adams last year? The Raiders only got a conditional third from the Jets. Same kind of player, same age bracket, same veteran status. Tyreek's legal situation adds even more uncertainty, with the NFL still investigating serious domestic violence allegations, claims he denies, but the league can suspend him regardless of criminal charges under the personal conduct policy. So the question becomes, would you take a third-rounder and maybe a sixth for Tyreek? If not, are you willing to ride out this season with no playoff hopes and watch him leave for nothing? Because that's where we're heading if things don't turn around fast. And it's not just Tyreek on the block. Jaylen Phillips is another name gaining serious traction in trade talks. He came in at number 4 on Bleacher Report's trade big board. Look, Phillips has talent, no doubt. We've seen flashes, but he's barely played in the last year and a half due to a torn Achilles in 2023 followed by an ACL tear in 2024. It's brutal. And while he managed to suit up in week 1 with 3 pressures and a tackle, he's a walking question mark when it comes to durability. Phillips is on the last year of his rookie deal, playing on a 5th-year option. So again, the front office has to decide, extend him or cut bait. If the Dolphins keep losing, you bet he's part of the sell now conversation. Don't forget, the Minnesota Vikings and Tampa Bay Buccaneers have been listed as potential destinations. That connection with Brian Flores in Minnesota makes too much sense. The trade value? A conditional 4th-rounder. Feels low, sure, but in this league, potential doesn't matter as much as availability, and Phillips hasn't been available. But wait, it's not all about selling. There's one intriguing potential buy on the radar. Greg Newsome, cornerback from the Cleveland Browns. Former first-round pick, still just 25 years old, and absolutely locked down Jamar Chase in week 1 with a 74.8 coverage grade and 0 catches allowed on 2 targets. That kind of performance turns heads. And guess what? Newsome might be available for a flat 3rd-round pick. Now let's talk reality. Miami's cornerback room is a mess. Storm Duck? Not the answer. Jason Marshall Jr.? Week 1 showing. Jack Jones and Verse Douglas? On 1-year deals. Drew Brent was just claimed. There's no CB1 on this roster for the future. So even if Miami ends up out of playoff contention, this is exactly the kind of move a front office should make to build long-term, which, ironically, is something Grier rarely does correctly. You want an example? Look at what the Bears did a few years back. Terrible team, no playoff hopes. What did they do? Traded a 2nd-rounder for Montez Sweat because they saw a foundational piece. That's how you rebuild a team, not by clinging to aging stars or injury-prone talent. Greg Newsome could be that foundational piece for Miami, a legit CB1 for the next 5 to 6 years. And if you can lock him up early, that 3rd-round pick becomes a bargain. The pressure is on. Mike McDaniel looks lost. Tua's week 1 tape was concerning, and missing 2 offensive linemen has crippled the offense. It's It's hard to believe in a turnaround when the fundamentals are this shaky. And with Buffalo up next, the future looks grim. So here's where I leave you today. Because here's the thing, we can't keep living in this fantasy world where everything magically clicks just because the roster looks shiny on paper. That dream died last season when the Dolphins once again collapsed when it mattered most. And if you've been watching closely, you know that unless major changes are made, we're headed straight for another year of disappointment. So yes, as painful as it is, the Dolphins need to start thinking like sellers. And if Chris Grier had any sense of urgency or job security on the line, he'd already be working the phones. Let's break this down further. Tyreek Hill is still elite. He's a game changer, but let's not pretend he's a long-term piece. He's 30 plus, expensive, and now carries the weight of a potential NFL suspension. The team needs cap relief, and they need picks. If you can unload Tyreek and net a third and sixth, or even an early third with some flexibility, you have to pull the trigger. Keeping him on a sinking ship would be malpractice. It's hard to accept, but the smart move is to sell high before the NFL potentially hands down any penalties or his performance declines. Holding on too long could mean losing everything, cap space, draft capital, and flexibility, for nothing in return. And Jaylen Phillips? Listen, we all want to believe in the guy. He was supposed to be a cornerstone on this defense. But facts are facts. This is the NFL. Your best ability is availability, and Jaylen simply hasn't been able to stay on the field. 2 major injuries in back-to-back years are not something any team can just ignore. The Dolphins are already overloaded with questions in the front 7. If another team is willing to gamble and send a 4th rounder, or even a late 3rd if Phillips flashes again before the deadline, that might be the best offer you're going to get. As much as it hurts, you have to think beyond 2025. You need players you can count on, not ones you're constantly crossing your fingers for. Now let's go back to Greg Newsome, because this is the part that could actually give Dolphins fans hope. This isn't just a panic trade or a win-now desperation move. Newsome is young, proven, and most importantly, consistent. He's everything this secondary needs, and frankly, everything this franchise has been missing since the best days of Xavier Howard. If you're the Dolphins, you make that call regardless of your record. Even if you're 2-6 at the deadline, you still go get him. That's called building a team with vision, with stability. Something this franchise has lacked for far too long. And let's not pretend there are better long-term options on this roster. Storm Duck? He's not making the leap. Jason Marshall Jr.? He's been exposed. Jack Jones and Verse Douglas? Rentals. Greg Newsome gives you something to build around in 2026 and beyond. A solid foundation in the secondary that doesn't need to be patched together with one-year deals and waiver claims. Now, let's look at the big picture. What if you move Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Phillips and flip one of those 3rd rounders right back for Greg Newsome? That's a net positive. You're getting younger, cheaper, and adding talent at a premium position. The money you save from Tyreek's deal, that goes back into bolstering the offensive line or maybe even drafting Tua's successor if this season implodes completely. It's about playing chess, not checkers. Something we've rarely seen from Chris Grier, who, again, should have been gone already. And speaking of Grier, can we just admit this era is coming to a close? He's had years to build something sustainable, and instead, we're still here, clinging to fading stars, patching holes with short-term deals, and talking about if healthy scenarios every season. Enough is enough. Miami needs leadership that builds for the future, not one that panics or overpays to mask poor drafting and failed development. This trade deadline could be the beginning of that reset. Move on from players that don't fit the long-term plan. Bring in guys who can grow with the next version of this team. Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Phillips might still be great players, but their value is